I was always this fearful little girl. Always, I could do things better if you give me a chance. I hope everybody else, by writing this book and putting it out there, the people that is going to touch are the people who's supposed to be touched.
Exactly.
Yeah. Confidence was something I was looking for for so long. And I saw this advertisement on a newspaper when I was in Canada. He said, build self-confidence. And at the end of the 10 sessions, I said, I joined this just because of your advertisement. You said, build confidence. And I haven't felt that. He said, don't worry, you are that. When I look way back, I realized everything I did, it wasn't for me. And I tried everything that everybody else said I should. I always blame myself for everything that had happened, and give me another chance and I could fix something. And not knowing in the end, I am the one who's supposed to be fixing me.
Welcome to Anne-Marie's Impact. My name is Anne-Marie Emmanuel, and I love being on here, having raw conversations with real people as inspiration for those ready to elevate and dominate personally and professionally through the power of self-love. Join me on this transformative journey as we move from inner lack to inner lush together. Welcome to Anne-Marie's Impact. It's my pleasure to introduce Sarah Winters. Hi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. So I want to talk about how we met. It was so interesting that while I was writing my book and I was almost at the publishing part of it, I met you and you had just completed publishing your book, Why I Stayed in an Abusive Relationship, right? And it was so heavenly because I was able to draw questions from you on what the experience was and how, the steps that you took, and then you were getting ready to launch and to do your book signings. So you were able to really help me. You were like a guideline ahead of me. You were just like one step ahead of me, and it gave me good support. So I really want to thank you for that. It was just amazing how, you were there to guide me and make me feel confident. So how did you feel about that?
Well, I got in contact with you via my cousin.
Right.
She had known you, I suppose, and I was so excited to meet somebody. She said it was likewise with a little bit of backstory like myself.
Yes.
And when I did see you, I was such a normal person. And I bought this book and I said, let me give you this and have a chat with you. Yeah, so it was an exciting thing. I didn't know I was such an impact on you.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yes, you did. It was like a soft place.
Yeah.
Because when I was going through this whole experience, especially because I was self-publishing, I was just feeling my way through. So I was able to call on you, and we really hit it off. We had a lot in common, like you say. So I'm really thankful for the friend who introduced us. And we've been friends ever since then, and we share a commonality.
Yes.
So I really like that. So talking about the book, I wanted to ask you, what was your motivation for writing the book?
Actually, it all started when I was, which is past the stage of being abused and left and came back to Trinidad, and I started to manage a home for battered women. Actually, it was the same home that I was a client at. And I was seeing different stories from each one of those women, and they were quite an impact on me, realizing what similarities there were in their relationships and differences, and a whole lot of different people altogether. And I was thinking, everybody have I've been reading so many books on the news. You're hearing things how people getting abused, and a lot of negative impact on being stupid. Once you know you come from a abusive relationship, especially a woman,
Right.
they would think, "Oh, she's just a stupid, dumb person." And I think we grow in stages according to our abusive situation, and I believe in writing a book, it will actually put the readers into a certain perspective, showing my thinking mind at that stage as I grew into marriage, which was 23 years,
Wow.
and what
23 years.
yeah, how it impacted
And
me
all of the 23 years was abusive.
was abusive.
Wow.
Not every single day, but it
I know,
was.
but
Yeah,
I mean, when you look at the whole
Yeah.
from the beginning,
yeah.
is
So
what I'm saying. So you went into a marriage that was abusive.
yeah.
Did you know before the marriage that?
No. Before marriage was quite exciting. He understood everything that
Right.
about me, and one of the mistakes I realized long after is that I told him every single thing about myself, my family, my background. So it was like he just read my entire book.
He read the whole
Yeah,
of you.
about-
And did you know the whole of him?
And
I guess not.
didn't. I know part, and he was such a loving and kind person.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
So were there red flags? I mean, look, we always see it in hindsight.
But the biggest red flag just came all at once. So when I left home because of a situation, when in our days of girls supposed to be married before they reach 20 years old, and it was time for me to get married, and there was an arranged marriage, and I didn't want it. Yeah.
Okay.
And I met my then husband in a workplace. In my workplace, I started to work, and I saw him, and I thought to myself, well, that's the same ideal look that I wanted. It was nice, as though the universe just dropped this person in front of me, and I started to talk with him, and I realized I didn't want to get married to the person that my parents had asked me to, and I actually ran away.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, from that, and when I went to live with him, my mom knew about him because I used to drop little hints for her and tell her everything about this guy that I'm speaking to, and hoping that she would change her mind about the other person that she had already arranged for me to marry. And so she found me. She came to his home, and I left with him because she said if you come back, we would have a decent wedding and go back. You would go back. But when I left, at that time, those days we didn't have cell phones.
Right.
Yeah. So there was no way I could have communicated with him, telling him why I went back home. And
so you did leave and go back home.
yeah, I did leave and go back home.
And then what?
Well, I came to realize that what she said about me getting married and going back was not true. In fact, she locked me in the room, one room, and all night I screamed and I wanted to go back. And one of my brothers, he said, you know what, we'll take you back in the morning. So he did take me back, and by that time, my husband, my then to-be husband, had already left to go to work. So I had to wait there for the entire day until he come back
Did
home.
they
in the
wait
evening.
with you?
No,
Oh,
no,
they
they
just
just
dropped you?
dropped me, yeah.
Wow.
And in the evening he came, and he just looked at me and he didn't say a word. And he went to his room, and then he came back and into the room, into his mother's room. Well, I went in her room because I was scared.
Right.
And he punched me in my stomach. And that was the biggest red flag ever. Just first sign. And
Why did he do that?
he said, you think I'm stupid or something
So
to that.
he did that because you left and went back.
Because I left and asked me why did I come back.
So he was taking away your free will to decide if you want to go or stay.
Well, he said to get out, and it was already dark, and I was scared, and I ran downstairs and I hid.
Okay.
Yeah, and his mom came and found me downstairs, and and she took me up back to her room.
Right.
And about an hour after, he came into the room as though he knew I was there, and he said he's sorry, and I could stay, and that's how I end up staying. So my
That was a red flag.
my red flag was shown to me from the beginning, but I
But
didn't
you
know.
were young, you know,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
just don't see it.
Yeah.
Wow. How has your life changed since you went through this whole experience and you came out of it, you survived? Like where you are right now, how has your life changed? And do you see that experience as something that you know, because you went through that, you are in the place that you are right now? Because usually when we have negative experiences in our lives, you know, instead of asking why did I do that or why did we look at it and see how it brings us to the place that we are now. How has your life changed in terms of that?
From a life of adventure to a very serene and peaceful, a little too peaceful, from that person to this person.
Right.
But I am grateful for the experiences, though it may sound dumb.
No, it's not
Yeah.
dumb at all. I think it gives us strength. I think we all go through whatever we go through in life for us to find a deeper strength within ourselves and to learn something about ourselves. We learn about our weaknesses, because when you look back, you know, how could I do that? How could I have been that? So it's all part of our journey. And yeah, I don't think it's dumb. You know.
But when you say we all learn about ourselves, I thought about that in a deeper way. If you had asked me that when I just wrote the book, I would not have had an answer. But with time,
Right.
we tend to dig a little deeper, and something else surface other than the question that you believe, the answer that you believe that is. But when I look way back, I realize everything I did, it wasn't for me. I wanted an answer, and I wanted things to work, and I tried everything that everybody else said I should.
Right.
So I was probably sifting through everybody's way of doing things,
Right.
and realized in the end it was my way in which things should work for me.
Right.
Because everybody's experiences wasn't really what I was actually experiencing.
Right.
And all that I did wasn't for me. It was to make sure that things work for everybody else.
Right.
And if things work for everybody else, it will work eventually for myself.
Right. So you're saying that that's what you thought then, that
That's
If you-
the answer that came up. And when looking back and thinking, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like I want this for me because you treated me that way and I needed to be treated this way. No, I wanted it to be right. Yeah.
yeah. So I think in my experience when I was writing, it I discovered a lot about myself. I saw my strength. I saw certain things that I did that I really wasn't present to. It brought me present to some of my accomplishments, like wow, I was able to do that. You know, it sort of kind of showed me my life in a story where like I was outside looking in, you know, and I thought that was very healing. I thought it was very cathartic. And did you have that experience? Wow, look what I have accomplished, or look what I had to endure.
Yeah. When in writing, it was as though I was reliving every single thing. So it was a very painful thing to do, to write that book. I would remember it in details. I remember my feelings and exactly how I was thinking at that time.
Yeah.
I didn't even stop to think. If I had thought this way instead, that would have been differently. No, I just wrote, and keeping in mind that the name of the book is Why I Stayed in an Abusive Marriage,
Right.
and all the answers have to reflect on why. And each answer that I came up with, it flowed according to each story, and every story that I wrote there, it impacted a whole lot on reasoning on why I stayed, and it was my way of thinking at that time.
How
And
difficult was it for you to write it? Because I remember reading your book, and it was difficult for me to read that book, I'm telling you. I do a lot of reading, and there were times I had to just put it down for a week or two or so, because you were asking me what I thought about the book, and I was like, I didn't get through the whole thing yet. And that's why I couldn't. I was like, this is just too much. I have to put it down for a while. So I can just imagine. How was that for you reading the book? Okay. I mean, writing the book. If it was so difficult for me reading it.
It was.
It
was traumatizing. I had to sleep and wake up around 1 in the morning, and what I've written the paragraph before, I would read it over and edit it, meaning fix the vocabulary and all of that. And writing it, there are parts where you're actually feeling it, and I'm looking at that person, and it was painful. I would stop, I would cry, I would come back, and I need to finish a certain thing, and hours would pass, and sun had already arisen, and it was hard. But I kept on. Some days I would leave it for 7 days, and then I'll start back again. And it was it was difficult for me to just write those things. Coming to the end, I was tired. It drained me emotionally. And I decided I need to stop. I couldn't write anymore. There are so many other stories I could have written. I think I would probably kill the readers.
And you had a publisher, right?
Yes, I did.
So were you on a deadline?
No, I wasn't on any deadline.
Okay, because I know some publishers, and so I could imagine how that would be if you...
Probably hence the reason why it took so long.
Which is good, because that was your healing process, that you needed to go through that. And I think that in itself was is so cathartic, because how else would you have gotten this stuff out? Do you think you would have probably seen a psychiatrist or get some kind of counseling?
Actually,
do you think you would have? Or
I did years and years of counseling
before
the book. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This book took me years.
Right.
I did a lot of self-development courses, joined churches, I got baptized, I joined yoga classes, I did meditation, and up to philosophy. Lovely. And I knew I wasn't ready to write the book at that time. I needed to check.
You needed to go within and heal.
And heal to write. And even though I wasn't ready, while I was writing it, I still believe I wasn't ready, because it was so painful to keep bringing this thing up. But actually writing it and putting it outside of me, I tried reading it as a third person many times, and I couldn't be that third person. I'm always that person who's going through it. I don't know how to be the third person reading this book. And, so hearing that you said that you couldn't even read it, maybe it's the same way. Maybe I was feeling that you were feeling it too, and it just goes to show that I wasn't trying to make an impact on anybody. I was just trying to let the world know that this is me thinking like most people would think, that we could make this work.
And that's exactly now. I was always one to be judgmental about people who tolerated abuse in a marriage. And I think one of the things that came out for me in reading the book too was that because I kept saying, why would she stay? Why would she? And then I got to realize that I did the same thing. I was in a marriage for 15 years, but it was mental abuse. So sometimes we tend to think of abuse as just physical and, that kind of drama, but mental abuse is just as damaging as the physical abuse that you went through. So after I came out of my marriage is when I realized that I was in an abusive relationship. And I never saw it that way. While I was judging people who stayed in physically abusive relationships, I was doing the same thing. So it sort of helped me to not be judgmental about anyone who's going through abuse, because the mindset, it's about this. What are you telling yourself? What I was telling myself, just like you said, was I can deal with this. That's, I can stay in this marriage. I can deal with that kind of mental abuse. I didn't call it mental abuse at the time. I just thought it was, I can deal with that, but I can stay married and make this work. And that's exactly why I stayed for 15 years.
I believe it all started actually from a young age, very young age, and my mindset at that time, and what I saw in my parents' lives.
Yeah.
And the questions that I asked myself, why is my mother feeling that way? How can I help? And a lot of questions, I realized I live it out through experiences.
Right.
And that's the way I got my answers. And I think it's important that when we are little kids, we see things we could see these two people sitting together looking at the same scenario. We would always come up with something different. Either one of us would have a different perspective and a statement that we would make to ourselves,
Right.
our future selves. And my statement was, I was always this fearful little girl. Always, I could do things better if you give me a chance. So I think that was that part of me. I always blame myself for everything that had happened, and give me another chance and I could fix something. I always believe I could fix something.
Right.
And not knowing in the end, I am the one who's supposed to be fixing me.
Yeah.
And it's only when I came to that realization, doing all these courses and understanding myself differently, then I realized that what I was seeing out there, what I was actually given out there, was this big fear that I was never good enough to do anything.
Exactly.
And I needed to do something better. And each try I try, it still wasn't good enough for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to fix everything from the outside.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing that everything has to be right from the inside. And that's what we do. We live our lives from the outside in.
Yeah.
And that's lack of self-love. And when you understand self-love, you understand that everything emanates from within. But the society doesn't teach us that.
No.
And we have to stumble our way through. Some people never learn that. So we're in a good place because we've discovered that, and now we can redesign our life to live life from the inside out and know that everything on the outside is going to emanate and resemble what's on the inside. So yeah, that it's hard. It's a hard lesson to learn, but I think you're on the path for learning that.
Yeah, I'm always learning. I have to keep reminding myself of certain things that, as you say, self-love. I don't know how much I love myself, but I want to see everybody at peace and not go through what I endured. And I know there's so much people outside there enduring.
Do you feel like, so you say you don't know how much you love yourself. Do you feel like you're more in a space of self-love now than you were, say, 5-10 years ago? Are you working towards self-love? Like, self-love is a journey. It's a practice. It doesn't just happen. Like, we don't just say, I love myself. I'm going to start loving myself from this day, and it's a journey, it's a practice, it's an education, right? Because that's what I teach, self-love. I I am a self-love ambassador to anyone that I meet. So, do you see progress in that area? Rather, I know you said you don't know if you love yourself, but are you working towards that, or do you have a plan to work towards that? I think you do, because I know you have taken certain courses that's bringing you closer to yourself, and then I see the results of that because of the work that you do with the. And you're so humble, because I saw some pictures of you doing
My artwork.
the artwork that is just amazing. You refer to your work as gardening, but it's not gardening. It's like landscape design. Hello, it's like, what? Does she know that you're so creative, right? So I think you are practicing self-love. Once you are able to do those things, to create and be, those things are coming from the truth of who you are. So I think you are in that realm of self-love. Of course, you keep developing and developing, but I think you are working towards self-love. So don't beat up on yourself too much, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, what really probably meant is that I accept myself for who I am,
Right.
and I appreciate my artistic side of me, and it's something like I long for. I long
Right.
to just keep doing that. It makes me happy. I don't think about anything but what I am doing. Paying
Right.
attention to just that makes me feel contented.
Right.
And a 1 hour doing it feels like 10 hours. So my life feel as though it slowed down, but not really slowed down in real time and space, but
Right.
slowed down in my reality. And appreciating growing older and doing these things is just, maybe that is what we call self-love.
Yeah, I'm hearing self-love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because that sounds like it's your passion. All those things. That's what you're passionate about. And
it's a
you
happy
would do,
thing.
regardless of what's happening. You would do it, and you don't feel like it's not even something that you have to get paid for. But once it brings happiness and joy and peacefulness, which is what I hear you describing, you're in that space of self-love.
Actually, if I do a little piece of landscaping, just as when I'm painting, I would step back, go somewhere, come back, look at it with fresh eyes, and wow, I did that.
Right.
Even with my painting, and I want to finish it. I think one of the bad side of me is that I want this finished now. So I will pursue it, continue.
Impatience.
Yeah, I think that is what I
That's
don't
part of the
have.
passion. No, that's part of the passion though, because when I get up with an idea, because I'm an artist as well, so we have
Yeah.
that commonality, right? And it's like, I have to get it done. I have to get it done, because it's the enthusiasm. You're bursting with enthusiasm for it. So all of that's why they call it your passion. You're passionate about it, and so I don't think it's a little bit of impatience, but it's good impatience, because you want to bring this thing from your mind into a reality. So it's all good. It's all part of being passionate about what you're doing, because you know the joy that it's bringing to you. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
Even though in my relationship, and he knew that I love to paint and draw, and he would, every single thing that I did was never good enough. He used to even put me down. You can't paint, and you can't draw. But yet when we had some hard times, and I always tell people I love to draw and paint, and on random people would say, well, can you paint this for me? And they'd give me a picture, and I would do it, and they would just love it, and I would get it sold. And he had at one point in time told me, come and do some painting, and we would sell it, and we got some money via that. And
Well, and at the same time, he was telling you can't pay.
I can't, yeah. And at the same time,
that's part of the
probably
mental
that was
abuse.
ingrained inside of me when he keeps saying that all my life. So
Yeah, but
I
if you
always
hear
thought
it
I never,
over and over and
I was
over.
never good at anything, but I love doing anything creative,
Yeah.
but I'm not
The
perfect.
whole thing of an abuser is to control your mind.
Yeah.
And once they keep beating you down, and usually in the beginning we feel like I can deal with this. It's not gonna happen, but it does happen. That's what I experienced. It's like after a while you just get beaten down to a pulp, and yeah, that's they start to mess with your mind, and it's hard to come back out of that. It takes a long time, just as much as it took time to.
As you said, it's hard to come out. It was when I actually came out of it is because I was really, really tired. I was tired fighting. I was tired trying, and I was just saying, you know what, God, you do everything now, and let me just whatever you think should happen to me, let it happen. I couldn't care less now if I die doing it. And it's only then when I said
You
that,
surrender.
yeah, then things started to fall in place as it happened, as though the last time when it actually, the turning point of everything happening, it was when I called the police. It was as though the police was sitting by the phone waiting for me to call. Everything just fell into place. When I had to go to court, it was like his lawyer keep calling and begging, and I wasn't seeing a thing. I just didn't want to hear anything, and I didn't tell a soul what I was going to say in the court, and I just lied because I wanted to save my kids and the business. Again, it was never about me. I just wanted everything to go smoothly. I didn't want it to go and anything else to go down. Let this stop with me. Let this abuse stop with me, and it shouldn't go on to my kids. And it probably was a bad thing, but in the end, it was good for them. It was,
As you mentioned kids, I was wondering, now I know in my experience of writing, there are times you have to make a decision to write about other people who is involved. And I had to really push through that feeling of guilt to tell my story. Like, do I write about this if it's going to talk about somebody else? And yeah, I had to say, this is my story, and I have to tell it the way it is, right? So did you feel that sense of guilt? Like you had to, you had to talk about his parents, your parents, your children, in order to tell your story. How during that time did you feel guilty about doing it, or did you had I guess you had to push through it because you wrote about it? How was that?
Well, I didn't think about anybody but telling my story. So I wrote about the story. The only guilt that I felt is that when I went to the court, the court case was because he had put a gun at me and asked me to get down. Actually, I was on top of the stairs and he was downstairs, and he said, "You come here." And I don't know how I slipped past him from down the doorway, and I went, and he didn't come upstairs. When I realized he left. He was all blotchy eyed as though he was ready to do what he have to do. But when I went to court, what I just said, I didn't mention, is that they were begging me to say that he didn't pull the gun at me. And
who was begging you to say
his lawyer. He was calling on the phone, and I didn't answer them, so they didn't expect what I was going to say.
They knew that would be a different charge.
He would go to jail, and that was it.
Against him.
Yeah. So when I went to court and they questioned me, and I keep saying, well, no, I probably thought he did, and that was a lie, and that was guilt I was feeling, and I walked out.
Why did you do that? Why do you think you did that?
Because if he had gone to court, gone to jail, my children's education would have been in turmoil. The business would have gone down, probably because with a whole lot of things, and there was a time limit. My daughter had to travel to go to do her last year in to be a lawyer. She had to go to England for that, and there was a time span there. So all the night before was thinking, all those thoughts were going through my head over and over and over. What should I do?
Isn't it amazing how, as a mother, the sacrifices that we make for especially our children.
Yeah.
If you didn't have children, what would you have done? You would have told the truth, I guess. I mean, you probably still wasn't going to, because we're always considering
the other
somebody
party.
else,
Yeah.
Oh, his mother is not going to feel happy if he's in jail. Or my parents. You know, it's always, those are the sacrifices I think we make as mothers and
I think,
as women.
Yeah. As women, and as a specific type of thinking person also. It could be man or woman. I don't believe there's, I think men supposed to be the stronger one. And probably that's why some of them don't even come out and say, this is what my wife doing, and they just relax in it. But I believe this whole journey was never about me, because I always think I need to correct that so that the other person will be happy. And in the end, I just feel that this contentment, whether or not people could say what, anybody could hate what I say or dispute and say, well, she just stupid. It doesn't matter to me. I'm in this little peaceful space now in my heart, and I still wish you could see what I saw. And there's so many things I wish other people could just stop and see it differently. And things would work differently if you just see things a little bit different. But then we can't say that, because in my time, during my journey, there was no way I could see things different. People used to say, think outside the box. What? You can't. I'm inside the box. I can't see above.
You can only see what you can see, right? What's visible, right?
But the whole thing is this, it was only when I was out of the box.
Yeah, so when you're out of the box. When you're in something, to me, the vision is, it's like it's right there. You can't see it.
No.
When you step out of the box, then you're able to, you see all the components of things. That's why it's good to train ourselves to kind of pretend that this is not me, this is somebody else. Because you notice that we always know the good advice to give others, but when it's for us, it's like we're blinded. So
we always think we have time.
I think we think we can deal with it. We think we're strong enough. We think it's okay. You know, it's not so bad. All those things. Yeah.
To me, it's only when something really impacts an individual's life that type of story comes into play. And there's so much of that going on that people is just not aware, and people don't even talk about it. We just live our life and pretend that, okay, it's okay, we get one slap here, there, somebody kill what, okay, that's a story for today, for 1 week, and then that's it, and you don't hear anything again. But it's important. Everything is important. Everything is connected.
The way people don't see how, you know, negativity happening over here can impact negative. It's all connected. And you know, like even with young children falling through the cracks in a community, people don't see how it's going to impact their children that they're spending so much time to educate and all of that. That's one of the things that always baffles me, that can't you see that it's one world and we're all connected, and if we let this happen on this side, it's going to eventually impact us on this side. I think it's hard for people to see that sometimes. So
that's one of the reasons why I still feel as though I'm this small little dot in the puzzle. That's not the brightest color also in the puzzle that you'll be noticed. But when you have this little puzzle and that little dot is missing, and if you have that eye to see that that's not a perfect picture, then you would you would point that out. But if nobody is looking at it and we just decide we're going to look at the sky and we're going to look at the mountain and the brightest colors and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. So the
Yeah.
majority of that little bruise in that picture that nobody's looking at,
Yeah.
I think it's important to look at all the the
How it all
inconsistent.
comes together.
Yeah.
How it makes the big part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
It contributes to
So that's why I still feel like being insignificant is a good thing for me. Yeah. Because in the end, I feel I have done so much. I'm so tired. I'm so tired about going through this, and I hope everybody else, by writing this book and putting it out there, the people that is going to touch are the people who's supposed to be touched.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is, because when you're writing it, well, at least for me, the first thing was who wants to hear my story, and I had to push through that,
Yeah.
of course, because I wasn't going to finish the book. But in the book signings is when I realized how important it was to write the book and to have those discussions with the people that I met on my journey, on my book writing journey, and to make me see that, this needs to be written about, this needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Because everybody's suffering through with that. But like you say, it's not a big issue until we decide to make it,
Yeah.
to do our part to bring it to light. And like you say, we're small little dots, but if there's a small bunch of little dots doing it to bring it to light.
Yeah.
So everyone has a story, and it's all important because there's so many, how many? 7 billion people in the universe, and we have our little neck of the woods that we can impact with our story.
Yeah.
Because just the fact that someone knows you, or maybe the fact that you're a Trinidadian, you could get someone to say, oh, a Trinidadian author, I'm going to get this book. So we're impacting our community, our own
Yes.
country, and
Yeah,
at
because
large.
with how else we gonna get big? You have to grow.
Yeah.
You have to be small and grow and impact everybody
and
else.
you never
Yeah.
know who you're impacting, even if
Yeah.
it's just one person. Because I'm sure people came up to you, and
Oh
you
yes.
know, when you hear those individual stories of people coming and say, thank you, this, I related to this. Even like I said, for me, it helped me to
Actually, I did. And just remember that I did have a group of people, around 300 people at one point in time, and it was a 5-minute speech that I did, and amazingly, only men approached me.
wow.
Only men came up and said, this old man, he came crying, and he said, this is my second wife, but my first wife, I used to beat her, and I didn't know I was doing so much damage to her.
Wow.
And he's crying, and I think I said to him, that's okay, now you have another chance
Yes.
to make this right. That's
Right.
okay. And that's the only thing I could have told him.
Yeah.
And I said, don't take it wrong when I said I think I'm just insignificant.
No,
Meaning
I
that's
understand where you were coming from.
Personally, maybe this is what they say, we must talk to each other and have this big voice. And with minds, it might sound off on you and you on other people.
Yeah.
And somebody will, I love what we discussed earlier, that you're starting from the little kids.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
work
where
with
it's
the
supposed to start.
Yeah.
From the kids.
From the kids.
Yeah.
We want that transformation, and the kids, before they get corrupted or filled with wrong learnings,
Yeah.
they have that clearing and that space to absorb this stuff much easier than us as adults, because they have less baggages to offload.
Yeah. Because
I see that they get it like this.
Because as
They
I
get it
said,
like this.
my understanding and how I actually found myself in this situation, it started when I was a kid.
When you were a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Most of us.
when you think and you think again, and you think 5, 10 times again, and you realize what was the real story behind everything that happened to you in your life.
Yeah, it's the
just-
culture
Yeah,
that we came up in.
yeah,
Yeah. For someone going through abuse right now, any kind of abuse, whether it's mental abuse or physical abuse or anything, and anywhere, it doesn't have to be in a relationship. It could be on the job or wherever. What do you think you would like to share with them in terms of what are the red flags? What are things that you can describe right now that would make someone who doesn't even think that that's a red flag take a second look?
okay. One of the subtle things is that the other party would just be very angry at you
Yeah.
for no reason. Instead of having a good conversation, talking it out, they would just say mean things to you. And we would pass that off as he was just angry. He'd get
Right,
over it. As one of
And
these
sometimes
subtle,
you feel like it's your fault that he's angry. They
Yes.
always try to make you feel like it's your fault
yes,
that they're feeling the way they're feeling.
that's true.
Yeah.
And one of the worst ever red flag that you should do and stop and just leave right away is when he does hit you. It's a little slap.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Just
A little
leave.
slap is just
Close
as
door. Don't
detrimental
even
as
look
a-
at him again.
Yes.
Just walk away and have yourself a good life. Don't go through trying to fix anything at all. And I believe in relationships. When you're on the same wavelength, you agree with certain things, you like certain things together, doing certain things together, and he's willing to listen to you and say, okay, I'll do this, let's do it this your way, and I do mine's, and we compromise.
Right.
That's okay. That's good. Other than that, anything that doesn't feel right for you,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah,
It's
just
always about how it feels.
Yes.
And we feel it. We feel that something isn't right here.
Yeah.
For me, it was incompatibility
yes,
at its best. It was like there was a point where we couldn't share anything together. We couldn't go to a movie together. I was doing a task at home. We just didn't share the same task. We didn't enjoy any of the same things. So that I think that's a red flag too, because it's like you're forcing something to work, But I think relationships are supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be like hand in glove.
yes,
And things are supposed to be smooth and enjoyable. And if it's not feeling good, you don't have to work at, they talk about you have to work at it. No, you shouldn't have to work hard to make something happen.
true. That's correct. And even any criticisms, once
Right.
he decide he have to criticize what you do.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, an easy criticism. My uncle was saying, when I just got married, my wife, she cooked breakfast for me, and then when she made eggs, and when he ate the eggs, he got a little crunch. So he said to her, honey, I love the breakfast, but I didn't really appreciate the crunch. So he made everything fun for them, and any little errors, mistakes she made, he was telling me that he made it to be a little joke.
Right.
And things got easier and simpler, and that's how their relationship grew stronger and stronger every day, because he believed he should treat her
Right.
in such a nice, soft way.
Right.
And he got the same. She decided to make fun of any little things that he was inconsistent with also.
Right.
So they had a good life together.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's going to help a lot. I love the fact that you said the anger.
Yeah.
It's always there was always anger. There was always insecurity, and there's always control. Oh, and also some of the ways. What are some of the ways that someone who's in this situation can protect themselves? Because sometimes people, they want to leave, but they are intimidated by the other person, because there's usually a lot of threats from the other person. So how can they protect themselves if they do decide to leave?
There are ways and guidelines that's already out there printed on the internet where they will tell you in a very, very abusive situation, you need to be very careful and calm about what you're doing. Plan. You need to plan. Yeah. You need to know. You need to watch him and or her and say, okay, these are the times. These are what gets him angry, and I need to make a plan. Make a. If you have to leave, you have to have a certain amount of savings. You have to have a little bag packed. You have to tell people. You have to tell the police too, especially. You can't just leave without the police knowing anything, and be wary and cautious of that. And one of the advices I would actually want to give the people who are already in an abusive situation and who coming out of it and came out of it is that just transform all your afflictions into something positive, something really nice, and it happened already. But just be transformed by what you had gone through in order to keep what you, Anne Marie, want to keep letting the public and world know that we could change, we could be happy.
Yeah.
And those afflictions is actually
life after abuse.
Yeah. It actually causes us to be resilient.
Yeah.
And also tolerant.
But we must go to get to that point. We really have to get that counseling, professional counseling too. I believe that.
Actually, I did so many counseling, right? And I was so tired. I was so tired. Like each time I have to go and repeat myself to the counselor, and I wanted an answer.
But there are different methods of counseling too. So I think if you're doing one and it's not working, if you don't feel it's working.
I did many in Trinidad, many in Canada, different places. And I remember in this big Catholic church, the last counselor I went to, she was saying, she asked me the same question, what do you want? I said, you know what? I stood up and I said, I don't want to go through this no more. I do not want to repeat myself anymore. Because each time I repeat myself, I find myself in the same position that I was in. I cry all over and I'm not getting answers. At that point in time in my life, I just wanted somebody to tell me what to do. And nobody was telling me what to do.
Yeah.
So that's when I stopped and I met with one of my cousins. She was an alcoholic. And she took me to their little programs and she was fun. She was an alcoholic and she was fun. And I wanted the fun part. And then we did other things than go shopping and doing every other thing without remembering, without going back to my problems. And I think that's one of the switches.
Right.
I stopped
shifted something for you.
I stopped thinking about that and woe is me kind of thing.
I love that.
Yeah. And I started to realize, I didn't think about that for a whole week.
Yeah.
And I felt better and I keep feeling a little bit better and a little bit stronger. And I got brave.
Shifting the focus.
Yeah.
Instead of just being wallowed in this is it. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being transformed into a positive thing would make you a happy and contented person.
Right.
And you can't we can't transform without having the afflictions.
Yeah, well, you've got to come from one place to the next. People go through afflictions in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to just know that everyone has an opportunity to move from inner lack to inner lush. Whether it is in the form of abuse or ignorance or boredom, anything. I think every human being has to move from that place of inner lack to inner lush and be transformed from something, Yeah.
So this morning when I met you, we were talking about spirituality and I was thinking to myself, I ask myself certain questions. And when something terrible is happening, I would stand back and ask myself, what is it that I'm seeing that's causing this to happen to me? And I asked God to help me to understand what is going on. And by those kind of questions, I started to see things differently and started to realize it is me who's actually seeing these things.
You're seeing the world.
Yeah, and
the world occurs to you.
Yeah. So when I understood what was actually going on and why this person was behaving in such a way, it relaxed me a little more, and I started to see things. So the changes don't really come all at once. Changes come in different forms, different fashion, and in time. Just as long as it took me so many years to realize I should not have been in that marriage.
Right.
But I do appreciate all the lessons that I have learned.
That you learned.
Yeah, and I could share it with the world to let them know that those are not the things that you should be going through.
Right.
Yeah, you should. Through my book, you would avoid doing all those crazy things that I did.
And I love that you use the word understanding, because when I describe self-love, it's compassion. It starts with compassion.
Yeah.
And compassion leads to understanding, and understanding leads to self-love. I think those three words are always synonymous with each other, because you gotta have, in order to have that self-love, you have to have self-compassion and compassion for other people. And in order to have that, you have to have understanding.
Right.
You have to understand, why are people doing what they do? Why do I do it?
Yeah.
What's causing it? What's the fear beneath all of this? And fear, right? And once you have those three things, you have self-love. You're in that space of self-love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you said that.
And I think that word fear is what actually is another thing that actually caused me to be that way, because I'm always scared of something. Somebody, even at work, somebody would call and we need to have a meeting, and what did I do wrong? When the meeting comes, like
voice in your head that
it's
that little voice in your head operates on fear.
And it always turns out
everything is unfair. So when you get to understand that little voice and take the control, then you remove fear and you can move to love. It's so much easier.
So many different words, and even confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence was something I was looking for for so long, and I saw this advertisement on a newspaper when I was in Canada. He said, build self-confidence, join the jiu-jitsu class. So I went and I joined the jiu-jitsu class, and I was good at it. Well, according to the sensei, he said, you're good. Did you pretend you was falling, or did you really fall? I said, I pretended I was falling. He said, but you're really good. And at the end of the 10 sessions, I said, I joined this just because of your advertisement. You said build confidence, and I haven't felt that. He said, he said, don't worry, you are that. That's okay.
Wow. Well, I am so happy that you saw the need to write your story, because this is something, I think, in our generation especially, that it was just the norm. Physical abuse was the norm.
Yeah.
And it surprises me to see how much it's still happening silently.
Yeah.
And we have to keep telling the story and bringing it to light. And someone who is sitting in that position right now can see that there's a way out. You don't have to accept it. So I really want to thank you for telling your story and for being courageous to do so, because it's not even pushing through all those things that we want you not to be able to do it. I want to congratulate you for being in the space that you are right now, for actually living your passions and doing your artwork and creating inspiration for others to enjoy. You know, so is there another book in the writing?
Yeah, but there is another book, but not at this point in time. I think I'll focus a little bit on my art
Right.
and get into that comfortable space and do something again
Yeah.
on the inspirational side.
Inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about inspiration.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so
welcome.
much for being on
Thanks
the
for
show.
having
It
me.
was a pleasure having you and
Yeah.
sharing your story with me.
Thanks.
Today's episode was made possible by the generous contribution of Matthew Babalao.